China has surrounded Taiwan with over 30 warships and 40 fighter jets, and it seems like China could be preparing to invade. But this is my second weekly news update summarising all of the news from the last week. But as I was saying, on Thursday the 23rd, China surrounded Taiwan. Now this is actually part of a new military exercise China's doing called Joint Sword 2024A. Now in this exercise, they've surrounded Taiwan along with the other islands that are closer to China. Now in doing this, China has basically cut off Taiwan from the outside world, and they've done this by imposing a sea and air blockade. Now it is worth noting that if China was to attack, this is exactly what they would do. They would first surround Taiwan and impose a sea and air blockade so that no Western military support is able to get into Taiwan. And then after China blocks all of this military support from getting into Taiwan, they would then most likely fight a war of attrition and beat down Taiwan. And they would keep doing this potentially for months until Taiwan ran out of ammunition, and then Taiwan was left with no other option but to surrender. Obviously it would be a lot more complicated than that, but it's how most experts think it would go. But these new exercises China are doing are certainly increasing the tensions between them and Taiwan. However, what the future brings with this potential war, we can only wait and see. Now keeping on China, on Wednesday the 22nd, China imposed sanctions onto at least 12 different American defense companies. And you'd never guess why. It's because those companies are selling weapons to Taiwan. And giving weapons to China's enemy is only really going to annoy China even more. Now some of these 12 companies were Boeing, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. And obviously you probably know, but these are the biggest defense companies in the world. On top of this, the people who are in charge of these companies and the executives have all been banned from entering China, which is going to be a major thing for them considering they have a lot of personal investments in China. And the Chinese government said that they're going to be freezing all of the assets that are in China that are affiliated with these 12 defense companies. Now just an add-on to this, it seems the tensions between China and Taiwan are about to get a lot worse. On Monday the 19th, the new president of Taiwan was sworn in, and that president has vowed to strengthen Taiwan's security by buying more Western weapons and Western fighter jets. I think everyone can see now that this is only going to end one way, and they can either do that through peace and talking with negotiations, or they can just go to war. But it seems like the West wants the second option. Now on to the next point. On Wednesday the 22nd, Russia and Belarus started their first phase of tactical nuclear weapons drills. Now these tests are taking place in the southern military district, and if you don't know, part of that includes the territory in Ukraine that Russia currently controls. So technically speaking, Russia could be testing nuclear weapons inside of Ukraine. The first phase of these nuclear weapons drills includes Russia putting nuclear warheads onto their new hypersonic Kinzhal missiles. And those hypersonic missiles travel at least 10 times the speed of sound, making them basically impossible to intercept. It's worth noting that Ukraine claims to have intercepted quite a few of them, except they've never really released much proof of that. Except these tactical nuclear weapons are designed to cause as much damage as possible, but without leaving the radiation that kills everyone afterwards. This means that after potentially a few months, the land would obviously be inhabitable again. Staying on Russia now, on Friday the 24th, Reuters posted an exclusive article saying that Putin wants peace in Ukraine. The deal he wants is for Russia to keep the land that they currently control in exchange for a ceasefire and everyone to stop killing each other. Now Reuters got their article from speaking to 5 top Russian advisors to Putin, and those advisors made very clear that this ceasefire offer isn't designed to make Russia look weak. In fact, they try to make it look as if Russia's the good guys and they're just trying to have peace because they want everyone to stop dying. But it is now in both countries' best interest to stop the fighting and have a ceasefire, just because there are so many people still being killed. And one of those 5 advisors said that if Ukraine does deny this offer, Russia can continue to fight just as well as they have been. Now there has been previous ceasefire offers under the same conditions, except Ukraine has rejected them every single time. So sadly, it's likely that Ukraine will reject this one too, even though it doesn't seem like they have a better option. And this is mostly because Ukraine and NATO still believe that they can repel Russia and take back Crimea. Except they've been saying that for about 2 years, and they still haven't shown any proof of them being able to do it. Now one of these 5 Russian advisors said that having peace with Ukraine is basically impossible. He said that if they want peace, they're going to have to bypass Ukraine and strike a deal with the United States. But from what we've seen, it doesn't seem like the United States wants peace in Ukraine because they continue to send them hundreds of billions of dollars. But either way, once again, we can only wait and see what's going to happen. Now going to the Middle East, the $320 million humanitarian aid port in Gaza has washed away after being opened for less than a week. On Saturday the 25th, a big piece of it washed up on a beach in Ashdod in Israel. And what's even more embarrassing is a US Navy ship went to try and rescue that piece of dock, and that ship ended up getting beached. In fact, the ship actually had to wait until the next high tide to be able to sail again. Now this was just a major embarrassment for the US Navy. Now the cause of this port being washed away was due to strong waves and heavy winds. And from the videos, it does seem as though that is the case. Except even during construction of this port, they actually had to pause for a few days due to bad weather. So I question why they continue to keep building it when the weather was clearly an issue. And considering thousands of aid trucks are waiting outside Gaza to get in, I think it would be much easier to just ask Israel to open up the gates so that the trucks can get in. Another thing I questioned was the official price of the port. And the official price of this port was $320 million, which just seems insane to me. Although I'll leave it up to you to guess where all the money has gone. But regardless, the port has now been reconstructed and it's being used again to bring humanitarian aid into Gaza. Talking of Israel, on Friday the 17th, Spain blocked a cargo ship that was carrying explosives for Israel. The ship requested to dock in its southern port, Cartagena, except they denied it access due to it being affiliated to Israel. And on the same day, Spain announced that they will no longer be providing support to cargo ships that carry weapons for Israel. It's worth noting that Spain officially ended all arms sales to Israel on October the 7th, the day that Hamas attacked. And Spain has also given over $50 million in humanitarian aid to Gaza. On top of this, in a big new move, the Spanish president announced that Spain will officially recognise Palestine on May the 28th. Along with Spain, both Norway and Ireland will do the exact same thing. They all say they're doing this because recognising an official Palestinian state is the only way to have lasting peace in the region. But Spain is just another country that is increasing the sanctions onto Israel. And if enough countries come together and collectively do this, it could potentially force Israel to stop their war. And this is mainly because Israel just isn't self-sufficient enough to be able to fight a war like this on their own. But it seems as an overall for everything, things around the world aren't really getting much better. Although I do have one last thing which is quite important, at least for me. I've now been totally demonetized across every single social media platform. And that means that I'm unable to make any money from any of this, even though I spend basically all day, every day doing it. In fact, I was even banned from X with 64,000 followers, and that was funding basically all of this. So that means I've now reluctantly got to ask for your help. I didn't really ever want to ask, except now I've been left with no option. So if you want to help fund these videos, you can go to the link in the description and you can join my Patreon, and that's going to help fund the production of all of these videos, and it means I'm going to be able to continue to deliver the news to you. And don't feel you have to donate much, just $5 helps way more than you know. But if you can't afford it, that's totally fine. If you subscribe, I'm just as grateful. And for anyone that's interested, the sources for all of this information will be in the description, along with the links to all of my other socials, which you can probably see on screen now. And once again, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you at the same time next week.